Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. My name is Oksana Zubri. I'm advisor on Ukraine affairs in the office of Honorable Senator Stен Kutcher. Je m'appelle Oksana Zubri. Je suis conseillère aux affaires ukrainiennes au bureau de l'Honorable Senator Sten Kutcher. Today, we are holding press conference sponsored by the Ukrainian Canadian Congress and supported by Senator Sten Kutcher. The issue which we are bringing to the attention of all Canadians is that of Ukrainians who have been displaced by Russia's illegal genocidal war against Ukraine and who are in Canada under a temporary program called CUAET. CUAET was an emergency response to a crisis, and we all thankful to Canada for making this program available. It no doubts has saved many lives. However, the war in Ukraine is ongoing, and Ukrainians who came here under CUAET have now been working, paying taxes, becoming proficient in both official languages, and raising families here in Canada. Many for almost 4 years. Some are seeking a simple and effective pathway for permanent residency. To date, they have no pathway to permanent residency in Canada. The UCC has provided the Minister of Immigration with a simple and easily implementable solution to this issue, a solution that will allow these war-displaced Ukrainians who have put down Canadian roots to become citizens and help grow the country what they have come to love. We will hear from Ігор Міхалчишин, UCC's CEO. He will explain the proposed solution and what can make this happen. Next, Gala Darkina, a displaced mother of 2 young children, will share her story. She will be followed by Taras Kinash, the priest and spiritual advisor to scores of displaced Ukrainians. He will share what he's being told and tell us what he sees happening. He will be followed by Senator Sten Kutcher, who will provide us with his perspective. Then Ігор Міхалчишин will sum it all up for us, and finally, if we will have questions, I will moderate. Commençons maintenant avec Igor. Let's start from Ігор Міхалчишин.
On February 24th, 2022, Russia began the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians were forced to flee from their homes and headed west to Europe and points beyond. Responding to the humanitarian crisis and community pressure, in March 2022, Canada announced the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel, CUAET, as a temporary measure to support Ukrainians and their immediate family members fleeing Russia's war against Ukraine. In February of 2025, the government announced that CUAET visa holders were eligible for extensions to their work and study permits with a deadline of March 31st, 2026. Ukrainians in Canada under the CUAET program are not considered to be UN Convention refugees and are therefore ineligible for the long-term government support programs offered to these refugees. À leur arrivée au Canada, la majorité des Ukrainiens en âge de travail ont immédiatement trouvé un emploi afin de subvenir à leurs besoins et ceux de leur famille. Ils ont continué à occuper un emploi rémunéré, à contribuer à l'économie en payant des impôts et à combler des pénuries sur le marché du travail canadien. Now, on the cusp of 4 years of Russia's war, they face great uncertainty and barriers to employment and education and building a life in Canada. In October, the UCC made 2 policy recommendations to Minister Lena Metlej-Diab, the Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, and the Government of Canada. First, we recommend that pursuant to the power granted to the Minister in Section 25 of the Immigration Refugee Protection Act, the Minister approve a temporary public policy pathway for permanent residency for Ukrainian citizens in Canada on a Canada-Ukraine Authorization Emergency Travel Visa, CUAET. Second, the UCC has also recommended that the Minister increase the number of provincial nominee allocations across Canada to allow provincial governments to develop specific streams to meet the economic labor requirements in their jurisdiction. As you've heard, we will have two individuals here who can speak about the personal impact of this policy, as well as from Senator Stan Kutcher. We'll speak more about the policy details following these remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. Now I invite Gala Darkina to share her story with us.
Hello. My name is Gala Darkina. I have been living in Canada for 3.5 years with my 2 children. We arrived here in June 2022. At the time, my son was 5 and my daughter was 10 years old. We came from Kiev. Before coming to Canada, I worked as the general manager of a large hotel complex called Admiral, which was located in Irpin, a small city not far from Kiev, next to Bucha. I had over 400 people under my authority. When the war started, we decided to go closer to my work, and we didn't know what would happen next. Within a few days, the hotel complex was bombed, completely destroyed, and I was left without a job. From that first night, we spent our time in a shelter. It was incredibly frightening. And if anyone tells you that Kiev can be a safe place in Ukraine, I can tell you for sure that there is no truly safe place in Ukraine. My husband and I made the difficult decision. I had to live with my children. Initially, we decided to move after 10 days, but the last 3 days we spent entirely in shelter, without going outside at all. We first traveled to the western part of Ukraine, and then a friend of a friend offered us a house in Romania, so we went there. While I was in Romania, Canada issued a special visa for Ukrainians. That was the moment I decided to move with my kids here, especially since I'm comfortable with English. I graduated from a linguistic university, and I'm a diplomatic interpreter of English and German. Back in Kiev, I worked as a translator and interpreter for many famous artists who visited the city, including Muse, Britney Spears, Madonna, Depeche Mode, Placebo, Bryan Adams, and many others. So I came here with my 2 children. I got the job. I worked as a coffee house manager at Breachhead Coffee House. I love this job. I love the coffee house chain. I love people I work with. Just one month after arriving in Canada, I decided to start learning French. Juggling with my work and family duties, I was able to take the course at YMCA over 4 years, and also I proceed taking private lessons. Aujourd'hui, je peux dire que je comprends assez bien le français et que je le parle un peu. After a year of my being in Canada, my husband decided to separate from me and start a new family. Unfortunately, my 20-year marriage came to an end. I know I'm not only one in this. Many Ukrainian families have faced similar challenges. 6 months later, my mother passed away, and just 2 months after that, my stepfather also passed away. Today, my only family left in Kiev is my grandmother, who is 93 years old. I visited Kiev 2 years ago for my mother's funeral and to see my grandmother. I have no place to come back to Ukraine. I'm settled here, and I truly love living here in Canada. It feels safe. I love working here. I love the environment, the people, and the most important, I love raising my children in this country. When we arrived in Canada, my children faced their own challenges, but they quickly adapted to their new lives. They became Canadian. Today, my youngest son speaks only English. He understands Ukrainian, but he doesn't speak. It will be difficult for him to adjust to a new school environment if he is forced to return to Ukraine. My daughter decided to join French early immersion classes when she was in grade 7. She started this class in middle school, which was a big challenge for her. But we knew that since she already spoke several languages, learning a 4th wouldn't be impossible. Extra time and extra curriculum and support helped her to become one of the best students in her class by the end of the last year. I was very touched to receive the email from her teacher praising my daughter for how brave and hardworking she is. Despite all of these achievements, I'm not eligible for permanent residence. There is no program for me and my children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gala, for sharing your personal story. And now I would like to invite priest Taras Kinash to share his thoughts about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, thank you for being here today. I would like to speak as a priest of Ukrainian Orthodox Church in Ottawa and someone who every day listens to stories of people who never planned to leave their homeland. Most Ukrainians who arrived here didn't came to search for new life. They came because their old life was taken from them. This is forced immigration. And many people which come to the church that tell me with the tears in their eyes, I have nowhere to go back to. Some left homes that are now destroyed. Some left towns and cities that no longer exist or are safe to live in. Some, they left family members behind and praying that they will survive and be united one day. And the church, I often see the moment when their strength breaks. They come to pray, but also to breathe, to feel like someone cares, like feel that they are not alone in the country they never expected to live in. Many comes for letters to support their applications of humanitarian and compassion program. They're not just documents, a cry for stability, a chance to stop living in a fear, a chance to give their children a future which war tried to steal. For these people, permanent residency means safety. It means dignity. It means finally being able to exhale and say, we can start again. And yet, despite everything they have lost, I see incredible courage. I see volunteers, parents, students, workers rebuilding their life from nothing, contributing to Canada with gratitude and determination. My message today is simple. Those people did not choose to leave Ukraine, but Canada can choose to give them a home, a place where they can heal, a place where they can belong again. Thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini! Glory to Canada.
Thank you, Father Taras. And now I would like to invite Honorable Senator Stен Kutcher, who will provide us with his perspective.
Дякую всім. Bonjour à tous. My name is Stanley Kutcher, and I have the privilege of serving in our Senate as an independent senator from Nova Scotia. I'm also here because my grandparents on my mother's side, my mother and my father, came to Canada after the last brutal war on Ukraine, World War II. And my family loved this country, and I love this country. So this issue is not just some discussion about immigration policy. It is an issue that gets to the heart of what it means to be a Canadian. This issue that the government of Canada now faces here is, in my opinion, a moral one. Should we assist a group of people who have been displaced by a genocidal war, people who not only have sought refuge here, but who have made Canada their home? They have become part of the fabric of our society. They contribute to our civic, social, and economic well-being. They have become part of the tapestry that makes Canada the envy of the world. Simply put, not only are they already here and living their lives, but they are a net benefit to Canada. Opening up a pathway to permanent residency would be a fitting recognition of their contributions to our society, and it would allow them to help us build the Canada that we want, the Canada that we value. The question is, do we welcome them or do we turn them away? To me, the answer is simple. The minister can act should she choose to do so. We are hopeful that the minister chooses to do so and chooses to do so soon.
Thank you, Senator, for your unwavering support. And now I would like to invite Ігор Міхалчишин to sum up.
As you've heard, until their status is resolved, CUAET visa holders face a bleak and uncertain future. This can include loss of legal employment, loss of access to government or employer-sponsored job training, certification, and other benefits that accrue with accumulated job experience and access to health services. Numerous surveys of CUAET visa holders have indicated to us that in addition to not knowing if and when the war in Ukraine will end, the inability to work in Canada uninterrupted and into the foreseeable future has been a major source of psychological stress and uncertainty. Many Ukrainians not only support themselves here in Canada, but their families and loved ones who remain in Ukraine. Ukrainians report that Canadian employers are reluctant to extend long-term employment opportunities to them because of the likelihood that their visa and work permits will expire. As a result, many Ukrainians are not able to maximize their income earning potential and end up in short-term, lower-paying positions. As I've mentioned, in October 2025, the UCC asked the Government of Canada and the Minister to establish a pathway to permanent residency for eligible CUAET visa holders and their families. Nous travaillons également par l'intermédiaire de nos organisations conseillères provinciales à augmenter le nombre d'allocations dans le cadre des programmes de candidats de province. Our community leaders across Canada have been meeting with members of Parliament and senators about this important issue. We are hoping to meet with the Minister of Immigration and Citizenship, the Honourable Lena Metlej-Diab, and her officials to hear an official response to this policy proposal and this policy program change. Such a pathway was opened for eligible Hong Kong temporary residents in Canada and their families, and we believe this can be readily adapted for eligible Ukrainians in Canada. We also know that the Canadian public strongly supports more permanent residency pathways for displaced Ukrainians. A poll conducted in September showed us that 69% of Canadians support establishing more permanent residency pathways for displaced Ukrainians. So in summary, our policy recommendations remain for the Minister of Immigration and Citizenship to approve a temporary public policy pathway for CUAET emergency travel visa holders, and that the Minister worked with provinces to increase the number of provincial nominee allocations across Canada to develop specialized streams to meet specific regional economic labor requirements. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all speakers. And now it's time for questions, if there is any. Et maintenant, nous répondrons à toutes votre questions, s'il vous plaît.
Dave Baxter from the Canadian Press. I guess for Mr. Michalchishin first. You talked about wanting to get a meeting with Minister Diab. So I take it that means you haven't heard anything from the department since the UCC submitted this proposal back in October?
We have met with her department officials to brief them on our proposal, but we have not received any feedback or any official letter of response about the policy. There was a lot of attention paid to the numbers plan that was released as part of the federal budget, and so we were watching to see what the government might do at that point. But no, we're waiting for the minister to meet with us officially to share with her, our views and hear from her views on this specific proposal.
Yeah, and just even with the levels plan, I understand you submitted this proposal in mid-October. That plan came out about 2.5 to 3 weeks later. It puts a big focus on economic immigration and a reduced amount on humanitarian pathways to permanent residency. What do you make of that shift, and do you think that says anything about the odds of getting this proposal actually adopted?
Well, I think as you've heard today, the argument for granting Ukrainians permanent residency is both economic, educational, and humanitarian. So we believe that, we know that the majority of Ukrainians that are here have been working from the first day because there are no other assistance programs for them, so the rate of employment is very high. The greatest barrier that we've heard about is access to post-secondary education because in most cases, not all, but in most cases, Ukrainians are paying international tuition fees to access post-secondary education, which are 4 to 10 times the regular rate, and that's a barrier that they can't afford. And so many have dropped out or not pursuing the education that would allow them to recertify or to gain further opportunities in Canada. And we have heard from provinces, Ontario, Newfoundland, Alberta, that the provincial governments helped, literally helped people get to Canada. In the case of Newfoundland, have been working very closely with employers to fill specific labor gaps. Again, I'm thinking about Newfoundland and Alberta and other examples where Ukrainians have come in and been a positive economic impact, in the population and have taken those jobs that were empty. So we do think there's an economic argument to be made, on allowing this kind of pathway. It's not exclusively on a humanitarian basis.
We wanted to potentially model this after the Hong Kong pathway. We know waits in that particular pathway can be upwards of 10 years now, depending on when people apply for that particular program. This question is open for anyone really, is there a worry that if this pathway became a reality, people could face exceptionally long waits where they're still just kind of stuck in limbo between Canada and Ukraine?
Thank you very much for that question. It's an excellent question. Two aspects that I want to stress. One is that the people who are seeking a permanent residency pathway are already here. So these are not new immigrants that are coming into Canada, and sometimes that's missed in the discussion, and are contributing economically as we speak. There are valid concerns about the rapidity of movement through IRCC pathways. And I think that one of the issues that the minister, I know, is concerned about is making sure that when people have an application, that the application is processed appropriately and moves through the system more quickly. So I don't see this being a potential barrier because I think that IRC is aware of this challenge and are willing to address it.
Senator, of course, as a Nova Scotian yourself and the minister being from Halifax, have you had a chance to speak with her, just face-to-face about this proposal at all?
Yes, I have. Myself and my special advisor on Ukraine, Ms. Zenia Zubri, have met with the minister. We have been in touch with her staff on an ongoing basis, and we have had a positive reception to our discussions, and I think that the minister is aware of this issue. And I think that the minister herself comes from families that weren't originated in Canada, as many of us have done. So I think that the understanding is there. I think the issue that we're actually asking for right now is that the action come following the understanding.
I think that's most questions. Is there anything around the line? Or? No.
Thank you for your questions. If there is more. Do we have questions online?
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci, c'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll do something photo razem.
Так, прошу. Тут?
Na swoim? Myślę.